Well, hello again and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm with my wonderful, intelligent, gorgeous, very hardworking 4th of July weekend loving wife and co-host Michelle.
Woohoo! Thank you, Speedy. Hi, everybody.
Yes, it is still 4th of July weekend as we are recording this Sunday, July 6th. 2025. A portion of it we recorded earlier in the week, but for this segment, we recorded at this point, and hopefully you're either still in the midst of a wonderful 4th of July holiday weekend, or you had one if you're listening to this later in the week.
Exactly. Hopefully, either way, that it was a wonderful weekend for all of you.
And hopefully safe but fun. I mean, it can be one of those tricky holidays where you got to be a little bit careful, but hopefully it was enjoyable and a good time. And maybe you got out to the Disney parks and got to experience some of the fun that happens around the 4th of July weekend, because they do have some good experiences out there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today. We do have a really, really fun main topic, kind of based on some things we talk about. 4th of July, maybe hashtag Year of Lynn, maybe a little bit all combined, and Disney. We'll be getting to that here in just a little bit. But before we do that, we are the Disney podcast of positivity. And that means we like to focus on those high moments, those wonderful moments, those positive moments from the week that was. We call it My Favorite Thing from This Week. And when we do this, we always start with Michelle, because she's fantastic. She's amazing. She is all things good in the world. She does the best research. You're about to hear she has the best lists. She also has the best My Favorite Thing from This Week. So, Michelle, what was your favorite thing from this week?
Well, I had a bunch of high points from this week, so it was a little difficult to maybe pinpoint my favorite, except for the fact that, last Sunday we actually got to pick up Scott, and he's back with us for 6 months. And so I think I have to say that was my highlight of the week.
Yeah, that was really good. It's good to have him back, and now he's with us for most of the next 6 months. There's a week here and a couple days here that
we're doing things.
But for almost the entire next 6 months, he's with us, and that's exciting and fun. And we've got lots of cool stuff planned, including one of the things that is my favorite thing from this week that just happened just the other day for 4th of July. We went out to Disney's Vero Beach Resort. Now, I'm not going to tell you this was our favorite visit to Disney's Vero Beach Resort, mostly because the weather was not idyllic, right, Michelle?
The weather really did not serve us well for getting to fully enjoy that resort.
Right. A matter of fact, when we arrived there, the pool and the beach were closed because there were thunderstorms rolling through the area. So, that's a big damper on it right there. And the weather was not perfect for the 4th of July, but we wanted to get out there mostly because we have some very, let's just say, ambitious neighbors around here who really like to celebrate the 4th of July. And Scott, he has a little bit of anxiety dealing with that. So we thought, let's go out to another place where maybe we don't have to deal as much with that. And Vero Beach, not that far from us. We love that resort, and it worked out perfectly for that goal for sure.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is definitely a wonderful place, and not to say that you couldn't do things there. It's just like Tom mentioned, with the pool and the beach being closed, it limits what's available to do. I mean, and the resort does try to offer some extra things in those situations. But it was serving our purpose for sure.
Right. Well, this is the reason why I want to say it's one of my favorite things from this week. Yes, it was not the idyllic trip to Disney's Vero Beach Resort, but I still got there, and I believe we agree on this. It still had that amazing vibe that we fell in love with a couple years ago when we went there. It still is just chill and relax. Yes, even though the pool and the beach were closed, in the lobby and other areas, they had people, involving the kids, involving the adults in activities throughout the place. They were doing that. But even on a regular day when things are perfect, there are things to do, all sorts of activities. The pool is amazing. The beach is spectacular. Food, drink, activities you can do that are part of that are complimentary, activities that you can pay a little bit more for that are fun and exciting. It is a really, really wonderful resort. They have a great spa there. Lots of stuff. We did this when we talked about it a couple of years ago. It has that cruise vibe without being on a cruise ship. And yes, you do have to pay for your food and drink, not like you do on a cruise ship. And there's maybe not the shows or whatever, but just that laid back, relaxed, fun, different from staying at a park resort vibe that I actually really, really love, and decided once again, it took me just moments after being there to say, we need to book another extended stay out there. Not talking a week, but like 3 days or something like that. I think it would be really perfect to enjoy our time at Disney's Vero Beach Resort.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, not to make it sound like it is so laid back, like if there are things that you want to do or things that they do have a lot of things that you could experience at the park resorts. For example, they do have a character breakfast there. And at the pools, they have throughout the day, they have games that they are playing with, little prizes that they award and things. And it's really fun for the whole family there.
Yeah, they have a little miniature golf course. I'm not going to say it's not like the miniature golf courses that you will find at Disney World. It's not that elaborate, but
they're free.
It's complimentary, and think of it like, maybe being on a cruise ship. If you've ever been on a cruise ship and tried some of their miniature golf courses on a cruise ship, it's kind of like that. It's fun. It's cool. It's something you can do with the family. That's a good time. It's not going to be the most, but it's free, but it's not going to be the most elaborate miniature golf course you've ever been on, but it's fun and enjoyable. And there's just so many things out there too. I mean, we didn't even get to go and do like the campfire sing-along and all that stuff that they have going on there. And they have activities throughout the day. Really a blast. Highly recommend that you at some point during your Orlando stay, during your Florida Disney vacation, that you look into adding on one end or the other. Preferably, I think the back end of it, because nice, relaxing at the end of, run on the parks and have this nice, relaxing stay at the end. It's only about an hour and a half away from Orlando. If you want to get out there, yes, it's a Disney Vacation Club resort, but it's also, anybody can book it. Check into it, because I think you may fall in love with this resort.
Yeah, and they do have, it's similar to Boardwalk in that they have in rooms as well as DVC designated rooms. So
in all sorts, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, regular hotel rooms and regular deluxe studios. And they even have these huge cottages that are beachside that are amazing too.
I recommend you listen to that episode that we did on the Vero Beach, and we give all the highlights there.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, that was my favorite thing for this week. My other favorite thing from this week is just something we did last night after we got back. We watched a little Banana Ball again, because I still love the Savannah Bananas, and they are back on ESPN, and we watched it actually through Disney Plus. And it still tickles me to death that Disney and Hulu and ESPN have tied themselves so closely to the family fun that is the Savannah Bananas and Banana Ball in general.
Yeah, it's one of the baseball sporting events that you can watch on TV and still enjoy quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of fun that they do between innings and things. We won't go into a lot of detail, but I would recommend you definitely give it a try and check them out when you get a chance, even if you're just watching it as a spectator on TV.
It'll look a little bit like traditional baseball, but it's really definitely not traditional baseball. It's all about fun. Having fun with the fans, having fun on the field. And it's great. And it's limited. They have a 2-hour clock. So it's going to be done in about 2 hours. So, it's not like some baseball games that can run 4+ hours, depending on it. It's going to be. So it's just a good time. It's just a good time. Recommend you check it out. One, if they come into your area and you can get tickets. It can be difficult to get tickets. But even if you can't, check out the schedule on ESPN. On Disney Plus, Hulu, they're showing several of these. And this one was from Fenway Park, by the way. Which was really
that was
cool
pretty
as well.
neat. Yeah.
So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get on to this week's show. Oh, I think we have one more thing we want to touch on before we get on to this week's show.
I didn't want to have to interrupt you, but yes. So as we announced recently, we did revise our Patreon program to really enhance it and give a lot more opportunities of giveaways and some freebies and things like that. So we do. If you are currently a Patreon, thank you so much. And if you are not, we really would love to ask you to check it out. We have some tiers starting as low as $2 a month. And one of the things that we are doing new as of this year is we will have some periodic drawings for prizes. And the next drawing is coming up soon. So you have some opportunity, if you're not a Patreon, to go ahead and join. And what our upcoming prize package is going to include is pretty neat, I think. So it's like a prize package of what would help you on a Disney vacation, whether it's on a Disney cruise or just to one of the resorts or even offsite to give you some of that pixie dust to bring with you. And it's going to include things like a Magic Band. So this is a brand new Magic Band Plus. Magic Band Plus has not been associated with anybody, so you can use that.
It's a Disney cruise one, so I think they call it a Disney Band Plus for Disney cruise.
Right,
so, yeah.
Right. But it can be used.
But it is a Magic Band.
Yeah, it is a Magic Band Plus. It can be used anywhere. And it's what's kind of really nice is it does have the Disney cruise logo, and that's something that you can't really buy in the parks, to my knowledge. So.
That's enough right there. I don't think you need to give anything else away.
I know, but we will be giving away some really nice Castaway Club
luggage tags.
Thank you. I'm losing my mind here. As well as some nice bags to carry your things in that are cloth. And we have one that is lined, that is insulated. So if you wanted to, like, let's say you're going to the pool and you're going back to your room, you don't have to carry wet bathing suits or whatever. You can, if you want to change and hold them into these wet bags, that you can as well.
Just be sure and get them out at some point because they didn't get a little.
Yeah.
You know how those get, wet clothes in a bag that maybe doesn't dry out quickly.
Right. But, or you can even use it like if if you went to the pool on your last day of your trip and you have these wet swimsuits that you don't want to, get your clothes and your luggage wet, you can put that in there to help keep the rest of your clothes dry, as well as some coasters and other little tchotchkes, an autograph book, and a towel, a
nice
Disney towel that you can have. So it's pretty nice prize package here, and that will be going off. We're going to be doing it during one of our future shows the end of this month. And so you still have time to join and get into the drawing for this wonderful prize package.
Cool. Yeah, Michelle's revamped our Patreon program very much. And yeah, we're excited to get you more involved and have some more stuff for you there throughout it. So yeah, please check into it. We have tiers starting as low as $2 per month. So yeah, and everybody who's been a Patreon for a long time now, thank you so much.
Yes,
we really, really appreciate you.
Do.
And we'll be getting more stuff to you as well.
Yeah, and we hope you're going to enjoy the new program.
And we appreciate the support because it's just, look, we'll likely never make a profit off of this show, but it does help cut what can be some fairly significant prices or costs that do this show. And you giving us that support in any way, shape, or form helps us get through this and be able to bring you this show on a weekly basis.
Exactly.
And the morning show and everything else that we do on this. All right. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and get on to this week's show. We do have a lot of stuff for you this week, including we now know when you'll get your chance to get a little early preview of Test Track 3.0. As the next Epcot Festival approaches, we learned what bands will be rocking the stage while you enjoy some international culinary delights as well. We'll tell you about that. And Tiana gets set to go on tour. What's that about? We'll tell you all about it. But that's later. Let's go ahead and get to our very patriotic musical recasting main topic of the week.
Just you wait. Alexander Hamilton. We are waiting in the wings for you. Waiting in the wings for you. Never back down. You never learn to take your but you overcame. Building though you rewrote the game. The world will never be the same. Oh.
As you may know, because we've been talking about it at length over the last year on this show, Hamilton debuted on Broadway 10 years ago. And as a matter of fact, it debuted on Disney Plus 5 years ago this week.
Yeah. Some big timeline things there for it.
Big anniversaries.
That's it. That's
Big
the word I wanted.
anniversaries. We just had our anniversary, our 7th anniversary. Bigger anniversary for Hamilton. Well, we thought we'd have a little fun being 4th of July weekend. 4th of July weekend can be fun. It should be fun. And we thought we'd have a little fun celebrating both the 4th of July weekend with some Hamilton.
That's patriotic themed play.
Yes. And adding a little Disney flair because that's what we do here on this show. Right, Michelle?
Yeah, we're crazy like that.
So we thought this week we'd bring you the Hamilton Recast.
The big recast.
The Disney Character Edition. So we're going to be recasting some of the major roles that we're not doing every character, but
Right.
some of the major roles that are within Hamilton and using Disney characters to put them in, right?
That's right. And it's going to be fun.
I don't know if you did you stick to animated characters or did you? No. Okay.
I'm all over the Disney universe.
Okay, so I don't think there were any rules to this. We were going to go through and give characters that we like. So yeah, I mean, I think almost all of mine are animated, but yeah, we'll see. And
I think
it's all
most
good.
of mine
It's
are.
all good. And by
Yeah.
the way, we'd love your lists. We'll go over it
Yes.
again at the end of this, but please share your list with us as well. So let's go ahead and start getting to it. The Hamilton Recast, the big recast. That's right. We're going to have it, the big recast of Hamilton. Lots of different characters. Where are we starting here, Michelle?
Well, before we actually start with a character, I wanted to say, surprisingly, when I was doing my research for this, I found the description of each character written by Lin-Manuel himself for the auditions for casting the Broadway run.
Oh.
So I have some little behind the scenes of how he kind of described each of these characters for people.
Michelle's already coming out with this week's hashtag Year of Lynn. I get to relax and not do anything the rest of the week because Michelle's got our hashtag Year of Lynn. Lynn, are you hearing that? By the way, we still want to get you on the show, at least acknowledge this show. If not, come on for a full-on interview. We'd love to know what Disney characters you would recast in these roles. But wow, Michelle hitting us up with the hashtag Year of Lynn. I love it. I love
All
it.
right.
That's so awesome. So let's go ahead.
All right. So I think, are we starting off with Peggy?
Looks like we're starting off with Peggy. That's what the slide says. The slide says, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, we're starting off with and Peggy.
Yeah.
Schuyler, of the Schuyler Sisters.
Right. So I don't know how you approach this. When I did, I tried to, and this was before I found Lynn's information, tried to capture what are their essence. What are some of the things about them? With Peggy, you don't get to know her a lot, other than knowing obviously she's a sister of the other two Schuyler sisters. But, you know, she seemed somewhat fearful to me, insecure on her own right, you know, and so, but not that she isn't really strong, but just that's her image of herself. What Lynn said was, and I'm going to quote, sweet, shy, youngest of the three Schuyler sisters. He didn't have a lot to say about this one, I'll admit. And so this one, I really gave it some thought, and I figured the best recast for this one would be Cruz Ramirez from Cars 3. You know, she was insecure. She had the knowledge of how to be a racer, but she didn't see herself as that. And so I thought, you know what, that kind of is the same personality that you see in Peggy. She doesn't see her own self worth or skill sets, and yet they're there. So
I like it. I like it. That's
Thank
a
you.
great choice. A fascinating choice. Fantastic choice. We just watched Cars 3 the other day because
Yes.
Scott's with us and he wanted to do the whole entire Cars. You had a Cars binge watch. I only
We
caught the
did.
tail end of Cars 3, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was good to see Cruz Ramirez again. I like her character.
I kind of forgot about her. And, the more you watch any of the, the films, you get more out of it. And I got a little bit more out of her, of watching it this time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
really cool. Nice choice. Nice choice.
thank you. So what about you?
As for me, so I started going one way with the entire Schuyler Sisters group, and then changed what I wanted to do later on the more I thought about it. Originally, I was going to go with princesses for all the different Schuyler Sisters, and I thought,
that's a good thought.
and this is where I'm going to go with this is not who I chose, but I was thinking kind of Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Ooh, yeah.
Kind of as that, a little bit naive, a little bit, in wonder of everything around her. And I think that is a good way to go as well.
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, I kind of thought about the Schuyler Sisters together. I kind of thought about 3 classic characters together. And the one that's kind of that, that extra wheel, kind of there, popular, fantastic, love her, but maybe she's not quite on the level of her other sisters or other friends.
Okay.
So I went with Clarabelle Cow.
Oh, wow.
As my Peggy Schuyler. She's definitely a bit stylish,
Right.
as Peggy is, but maybe a background player to her sisters. She's also a little bit snooty, which I could see, Peggy's young and she's got a wealthy father, and I could
Right.
see her being a little snooty and a little bit of a gossip. It wouldn't surprise me if Peggy's a little bit of a gossip. So I could
Yeah,
see
that makes
Clarabelle
sense.
Cow kind of fitting into that role there, and it'll make even more sense when you hear the rest of my Schuyler Sisters
Nice.
as well. So that's where I went, but I think Alice would have been a fun choice. as
Yeah,
well.
definitely. And I like the idea of how you were approaching it with the concept too of princesses and things. I think all of those could work really nicely. So-
Absolutely. So let's go on to our next one, and that is moving on to Eliza. Eliza Schuyler / Hamilton. Yes, the sweet one
right.
in many regards. Yeah.
Right.
So who do you have for Eliza, Michelle?
Okay, again, going with, her personality to when I'm watching the play, I feel she's somebody who's very passionate, and she does want to go after what she wants. She may be a little timid about it, but she's not fearful. Loving and definitely family focused. Now, what Lynn said about her, and I'm again quoting Lynn, fiercely loyal, self-possessed, proud, evolves from lovesick, wealthy young woman to the sole keeper of her late husband's legacy. And this one, I think this one kind of was the biggest challenge to me because, how do you capture all of that? And this one, I had some other thoughts to it, but I ended up landing on Jane from Tarzan because I feel like she's very family focused. I mean, she was doing things, this exploration with her father. She's not afraid to, approach a person who's totally different like Tarzan, and you would see that with Hamilton. And so I just kind of thought she kind of embodies that.
Yeah, I like that. That's an interesting choice. Again, Michelle with the best list. Michelle is much more interesting. Her list is going to be much more interesting than my list. I guarantee it, 100%, top to bottom. Her list is going to be much more interesting. I like it. I like Jane. I didn't really think of Jane, but Jane totally makes sense.
Well, thank
that's
you.
good.
And now I'm really curious of yours, starting with Clarabelle.
I
Clarabelle.
did not put Mirabelle in there. No.
Clarabelle. So I'm looking to see who the next Schuyler sister recast
Although
is.
Mirabelle might have been not a bad Eliza now that I think about it a little bit, but I don't know. No, so again, I'm going to go with both ways I thought about this. Originally, I was going princesses for the Schuyler sisters. Originally, I had Belle in this spot because I thought, she can be a little reserved, especially when she's around the townsfolk or whatever, But she's also, when need be, she can get her point across, and she's fiery and she's smart. And just like Eliza, I kind of felt that.
True.
But then again, I transitioned, thought differently about it. And I like Lynn. Well, I like everything Lynn does. But I like Lynn's take on Eliza. And I kind of thought around the same process. She's sweet, but gets her voice, maybe comes from kind of a little lovesick to begin with. That develops into a very, very strong female presence. And I really feel that calls out to Minnie Mouse.
Nice.
I think Minnie is the perfect Eliza.
Yeah.
She totally makes sense. Always stylish, sweet, not afraid to speak her mind, he maybe started out as she started out kind of with the character, was a little kind of a lovesick character, but then has definitely gained her own voice and stepped out of that role and is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way
Oh,
I think
I like that.
Minnie as Eliza makes total sense.
I really think that you nailed it there.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks. And now let's move on to our next one. Who do we got next? We must be finishing out the Schuyler sisters, right? Yep. We're going with Angelica next. Angelica Schuyler next. Michelle, who do you have for Angelica Schuyler?
Okay. Again, my thought was somebody who is smart, bold, and confident. She takes family and her responsibility in what her position is in the family very seriously. It is a driver for her actions. The way that Lynn described, quoting Lynn, is fierce, dazzling, brilliant, can read a room and everyone in it instantly. Close quote. This one, I actually have two here. I got to narrow it down to one, I guess. I think what I'll go with is, I'm going to go out on the limb here, is Barley Lightfoot from Onward.
Interesting.
He is definitely bold out there. He's very comfortable in his skin to be very bold. And he actually is smart, even though you don't think that, it doesn't come across. He comes across kind of like a goof, but he really isn't. And definitely, his role in the family is something that he is very in tune to, or just is that way naturally, in becoming kind of like the surrogate father in that. So I kind of felt like Barley Lightfoot is definitely somebody who could play the Angelica role.
I like that. That's a very interesting choice there, especially going a little gender bending there, a little bit something different. But I like your thought process. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
So I have a feeling I know who your Angelica is based on what your trend has been here in the three.
I think I pretty much gave it away. Yeah. Well, again, originally princesses. Originally totally made sense to me. Somebody that played Angelica Schuyler, again, smart, knows what she wants, going to go out and get it, not afraid to speak her mind, stand toe-to-toe with even men for sure.
Right.
I was going to go with Tiana. Tiana totally makes sense for that role, and I could totally see her that. But then when I decided to pivot to go to classic characters, well, I think you've already figured it out. If Minnie Mouse is my Eliza, if Clarabelle Cow is my Peggy, then Angelica has to be, of course, Daisy Duck. And of course, definitely stylish 100%. We'll stand toe to toe, even with Donald. We'll go she will stand. It's got to be tough to stand toe to toe with Donald all the time, and put up with it. Can get frustrated with people. I can see Angelica get totally frustrated with people, as Daisy would.
Right.
But in the end, still be very sweet and very smart. And I think that Daisy Duck is a really good Angelica Schuyler in my book.
100%. I totally agree with you. And I love that approach that you took with those three. That was really cool.
Thanks. But let's get back to the real list. Let's get back to who we got next. Where are we going next? Well, it must be Lafayette.
Yeah, Lafayette, and I wasn't sure. We didn't talk about this in detail, if we're to do each one individually or cover the two of them as one, as they did in the play.
Yeah, I think it's up to you and how you did it. I'll tell you, I did two different, because I didn't decide on somebody that I thought fit two roles. So I did two different characters for those roles. So I'm interested to hear how you did it as well.
All right. Well, thank you. I actually did it as one, but I felt like this person could play both roles as well as what we saw on stage. Again, I saw, if you kind of combined what both of those characters brought to the performance, they were a bit cocky and larger than life, willing to break some rules for what they perceive is for the better good, right? The greater good, or at least for the greater good of themselves. Now, sharing again Lynn's description, what he said about Lafayette is an earnest, idealistic Frenchman who reveals himself to be a superior military commander. and Jefferson is relaxed, jazzy, brilliant, whose effortless cool is ruffled only by Hamilton. And the Disney character that I thought could play both of those roles actually is Mr. Incredible. I feel he's cocky. He believes he can do it all, can do anything. Definitely larger than life. He likes to be out there.
He's definitely larger than life. There's no question about that.
He was even willing to wear a cape and to break some rules if he thought, like whether it was crime fighting to help other people or crime fighting to help build his ego or whatever. I felt like that kind of fit that character.
Yeah. Fascinating. That's an interesting choice. Michelle's list was definitely the best
I don't know.
Most interesting list for sure. I love it. I love it. So you have him for both roles.
For both roles,
Very
yes.
cool. Yeah, I like that.
So-
I don't know if he has that flamboyant. I can't see him dancing around singing "What Did I Miss?" But I'm all good.
I
I'm all
actually
good.
can see
You can
it.
see that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
well,
it would be
I
hilarious.
want to see the picture show in Michelle's head. Mr.
And that's when
Incredible
he would
dancing
be
around.
wearing a cape or something.
That is something I need to see. I need to see that happen now. That's fascinating. So,
Although now that we're sitting here talking, I can think of another character who would specifically be Jefferson.
let's see if it matches up with who I think is
right,
Jefferson.
let's hear
here,
yours first.
Because I do have two different characters for
Okay.
this role, although I think at least one of them could have probably played both roles. For Lafayette, I kind of feel he's a bit of a swashbuckler, he's a bit of a rogue. He's very French, very formal,
Yeah.
but he's also, he's willing to do his own thing as need be. And I feel like the character that fits his role perfectly is Eugene Fitzherbert, aka Flynn Rider. I can see him definitely jumping off a table.
That's true.
Definitely taking on the Redcoats for
Yes.
sure. I could see Flynn Rider, especially if he's protecting Rapunzel, to
Right.
get in there and do that battle. I think he fits that role really, really well. I could see him possibly playing Thomas Jefferson as well. There's a little bit of a villainous side to him in some ways. Again, he's a bit of a rogue. He is a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. And I could definitely see him dancing around to What Did I Miss?
Yeah.
But I think more importantly, since Jefferson is kind of a villain in Hamilton in many ways, I think you kind of need a villain to play that role a little bit. A
interesting.
flamboyant villain.
Okay.
Maybe a pirate villain. How about Captain Hook? Now, Captain Hook almost is already wearing that coat that he's wearing in What Did I Miss through most of the second act there. But he's, Captain Hook, flamboyant,
Yeah.
devious, just like Jefferson is in Hamilton.
Yes.
I could see him definitely taking on that role and playing it really, really well. And he'd be a fun Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, totally. I could totally see it. Yeah, you're 100% right.
So
Very good.
what do we got next? So those are our Lafayettes. What do we have next?
Okay, well, for Jefferson, the one that, as we were talking, it came to my mind
yeah.
from Star Wars is Lando Calrissian. I could definitely.
Lando would be great.
Wouldn't he be great?
Lando would be
that
great.
just came to my mind now.
Lando would be fantastic. I
too
do
funny.
like Lando. That's a good one. That's
Thanks.
a good one. All right, so next we're going to go with
Washington.
Washington.
Yes, you said it right. Okay. My perception of him, he's a strong, a leader that others respect, a mentor. He realizes his past mistakes and he wants people to learn from them, not to make them as well. And he's willing to sacrifice to make things better for others. I loved Lin-Manuel's description. Quote, authoritative, regal, aloof, aware of his place in history at all times, John Legend meets Mufasa. I have to say, in his descriptions, he always did have like song, performers, singers, rappers, and things like that. But that one I felt, because he actually included Mufasa, kind of fit this one too. For me, I had Steve Rogers.
Captain America
Captain
himself.
America.
Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense.
I kind of felt like And especially looking at Lynn's perspective, knowing he's aware of his place in history, of what he brings to the table. But I also think he's somebody that people respect, et cetera, and wanting and willing to go in the battle for others. So
very much willing to stand up and be a leader, but also, pass along knowledge. And yeah. Very good. I like that. And very appropriate for 4th of July weekend to have Captain America involved for sure.
So what do you have?
Very interesting that you read that because I had not seen that quote, that breakdown of the characters from Hamilton. And I think now you know where I'm going with my George Washington. Yes. It's definitely Mufasa.
Wow.
That is the first character that came to my mind when you're thinking about George Washington. Yes, he's a king, and I know the U.S. Revolution is not about kings. We're not about kings here in this country, theoretically. We're not about kings here in this country, but I believe more than anything else, he is a leader.
Right.
He is someone who can take control, just like George Washington, but also act not only obviously acts as a father, but a father figure to others and pass along fatherly-like advice, just like George Washington did in Hamilton. I kind of feel like Mufasa just speaks to a very regal,
right?
He's a king in Lion King, obviously. No kings, he's a president. Yeah, but I kind of feel he fits that role. I also wanted to mention, I did think about for a moment changing it up a little bit and doing something a little bit different. I thought another that could fit this role that would be really, really interesting is Mulan. I kind of feel Mulan is, once she figures herself out, is a bit regal, is a heck of a leader. I mean, yes, technically she's not the leader of, that army, but she takes on that role and becomes the leader. I feel like she kind of could be that leader in many regards. So I kind of thought that was interesting. But when I thought more of Mufasa, I'm like, that is George Washington.
Yes.
I just find it fascinating that Lin-Manuel Miranda thought that exact same way.
Right. You're right on the same wavelength with him. Wow. Impressive.
You and me, Lynn, that's why you got to come on for an interview. That's why you got to come on with us. Speaking of kings, who do we got next, Michelle?
We have the king.
You'll be back. Yes, the king. The king is always fun. Some people love it. The king is on for like 7 minutes of the entire thing of Hamilton, and he's one of the favorite characters of all of them in the show. Michelle, I'm interested to hear who you have as the king of your recast of Hamilton.
Okay, so to me, another over-the-top big personality, obviously. He knows he has power, and he does what he wants, right? It doesn't matter what others feel like. He does what he wants. Okay, what Lynn said is he's entitled. He sees the American colonies as deluded former lover who will come crawling back. And... okay, I guess I have to make a decision. I have 2 names here, and I think both of them would fit, but I think I will go with Loki.
Loki's good. I like Loki. That's a good one.
Yeah, I just feel like, Loki's, kind of like the same personality, right? He's going to come across, he's going to be big, make speeches and, warn people of how they need to
be a little bit vindictive. Look for a little revenge. Also be, a little pouty when things don't go right. Yes. Yeah.
So, anyways, so that's my king recast.
Who's your other one? I'm curious.
Maui.
Maui. I could see Maui being that way. Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Especially in Moana. In Moana 2 is not a little bit different, but in Moana, the first one, he kind of had that to begin with for sure. And he evolved as a character, but definitely can see that.
Well, thank you. All right. So who do you have playing
the
king?
Mine, I actually have a character who kind of takes on the role as king, even though he's not the king. He was the brother of a king, and his brother went away. So he stepped into that role and acted very much like this king we see in Hamilton. It's Prince John from Robin Hood.
Oh, wow.
Prince John from Robin Hood, who steps into that role when his brother King Richard goes away to fight, I believe it's the Crusades, but whatever war that is to fight. And he steps in and pretends to be the king, even though he's, the forgotten brother, the pouty brother,
Right.
the crybaby brother. He's a bit of a coward. You can talk about the king being that back behind his people, making them do the things for him.
Right.
Bit of a crybaby, as I already mentioned. Definitely does not have the best interest of his people involved in his thought process or his country. And he opts to rule through fear more than through love or, respect or anything else.
Wow.
Kind of just talks to what the king is in Hamilton as well. Prince John from Robin Hood, I feel, would be the perfect king. And he's kind of funny being a crybaby, which I kind of feel is the way the king is in Hamilton as well.
Yeah. Oh man, I like that. I really love that. I didn't even go that direction whatsoever. I thought that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I like it.
So that's our kings as we do our Hamilton recast
Yeah.
with Disney characters. Now we got to get to the top two, the main two. That's right. We'll start off with Aaron Burr, sir. Yes, Aaron Burr. I'd love to hear who Michelle has as Aaron Burr here. I know it's going to be fantastic and fascinating, while mine will be boring.
I doubt
not very interesting at all. You probably have already predicted it.
No.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't. We'll see.
I
But
haven't.
I know you will not predict Michelle because I have no idea. I have no idea. Michelle, who do you have playing Aaron Burr in our Hamilton recast?
Okay, so this one, I figured because he's thoughtful in decision making, feels hard work and putting in the time will be rewarded. But he does start to become power hungry. And what Lynn says is a cool, steely, reserved, an orphan raised in wealth, plays his cards and opinions close to the vest, slow to anger, but when he gets there, look out. I feel like the person who could play Burr is Count Dooku. He starts off kind of as a good person. He's a Jedi, but eventually he gets power hungry and moves to kind of the dark side there. And I just could see
You
him.
can see him playing
as
that.
Burr.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good choice. It's definitely a good choice.
It's
I like it.
different.
It's definitely a more interesting choice than my choice, I think. Although I don't know. You may think my choice is very interesting because, look, you're going to know who I went with Hamilton here when I mentioned Burr, by the way. You're going to know. It's going to give it away for sure. Now, I found Hamilton and Burr really hard for me to cast because they kind of have to be friends, but also be able to be adversaries at the same time. And it makes it very difficult. And they're also very interesting roles because they both are heroes and villains. I mean, a little bit. I mean, even Hamilton, even though it's his name is on and you're rooting for Hamilton, he does some very sketchy things throughout it all. So it's kind of tough to get those spots going. And I thought about going one way with this at first, and then I decided to flip it because I thought it made more sense when I thought about who these characters were and how they act on the stage, on the screen. So my Aaron Burr may surprise you to think that it is actually Mickey Mouse.
Ooh.
Mickey Mouse is my Aaron Burr because when I thought about the characters, Aaron Burr, his whole thing is, keeping it close to the vest. Wait for it. Not go out, not branch out, not be too, spontaneous, not be just do things on a whim. Think about the process and decide to do things until he makes the poor choice or the I don't know, just the
devastating.
Yeah, the terrible, terrible choice to not wait for it and go after this. So I kind of thought that in some regards was Mickey Mouse. I mean, he's relatively likable. Well, he is likable. Mickey Mouse, we love Mickey Mouse. I can't say he's relatively likable.
Lovable.
He's lovable. We love Mickey Mouse. Just Burr, you like him at the beginning. You enjoy him. You appreciate him. You understand. You can relate to him. At least some of us can relate. I can very much relate to Aaron Burr. I love Mickey Mouse. He's kind of an everyman. He was brought up in maybe a little bit better area. I mean, Mickey Mouse, everybody loved Mickey Mouse. He's the first cartoon character, obviously Oswald, but the first real where Disney really took off. character. And so he's beloved. He's been put on a pedestal, kind of like Burr was kind of put
Right.
on a pedestal. You can see him thinking things out. Mickey always thought things out as he go through. But as we've seen in the Mickey short, sometimes things can go awry and he can snap a little bit. Mickey can snap a little
can.
bit. You know, they tried to stay away from that for a long time, but we've seen him snap. And I think that's kind of a little bit what Burr does.
Right.
And Mickey could do. So that's kind of why I put him in as my Aaron Burr. And I
Interesting.
think you're going to figure out who my Alexander Hamilton is by that, but we'll go to that in a moment. Let's go back to the real list first and get to Michelle's Alexander Hamilton.
All right. Well, now I think I might know who your Hamilton is, but I can't say I'm positive I know. I see Hamilton as somebody who's confident, but doesn't always stick to following the conventional ways. He's willing to take chances. He feels his ideas are great, and he knows not everybody's going to follow or believe him, but he's going to do what he can to try to get them to be persuaded and follow along. And he creates havoc despite his good intentions, right? What Lynn said is, an earnest, ambitious hothead, a man possessed, speaks his mind no matter the cost. And I don't know that I went quite as hard as that, but I felt Jack from The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack Skellington. He's confident in his role, but he's seeing, some other opportunities and wanting to go that way. He's meeting with the town people and trying to convince them to change holidays or change how the holiday is celebrated, etc. And despite him having good intentions to make this something fun for everybody, we know how it all turns out. It's just pure problematic. So I just felt like that kind of embodies Hamilton.
I like it. He's not willing to wait for it. He wants to go out there and get what he wants,
Right.
which is, I need a new holiday. I need something different to celebrate. Yeah, yes, Halloween's great, but I need something more. So he goes out and finds Christmas and is like, I'm going to go ahead and make Christmas ours.
Right,
And so I
exactly.
kind of get that. And I could see Hamilton doing something similar on the, he's not going to wait around. He's going to make something happen. And yeah, I can see that, like Jack Skellington.
Thank you.
Now,
Yours.
yeah, I think you're going to be, I think it's already, I've given it away as I've talked about. Well, first of all, I want to say I did think about somebody else to play Hamilton first because I don't know, there's just something about him. Something about him just shouts Hamilton, and that was Jack the Lamplighter. I don't know. There's something specific about Jack the Lamplighter from Mary Poppins Returns.
Really?
There's something about him that just reminds me very much of Hamilton. I don't know what it is.
How did you
But
come up
there's
with
something
that?
about them. But when I went back to this thing, trying to figure out, they're friends that kind of split off. They do different things. One's a little bit more impulsive. One's a little bit more contained. Well, if I'm going to go with the impulsive one, originally I was going to go with Mickey as the hero. If you look here at the front of our logo for this, you can see it's Mickey Mouse as Hamilton on there, right? Well, Mickey Mouse is not Hamilton to me. Hamilton is actually Donald Duck. Talk about somebody. I think actually, can you read off what you said, what Lynn said about Hamilton again?
Sure. An earnest, ambitious hothead, a man possessed, speaks his mind no matter the cost.
That's Donald Duck.
It is
I
Donald
didn't
Duck.
read that, but that's Donald Duck to me. Impetuous, willing to get out there, very impulsive, a little bit of a hothead. We know Donald is a hothead for sure. That makes sense to me for Hamilton.
Yeah.
And again, to me, they have to be friends. Mickey and Donald are friends, but at the same point, there are sometimes adversaries for different things, and I could see that happening. And I could definitely see them playing these two roles. So yeah, as much as I at first was thinking Mickey makes total, as a matter of fact, I almost stayed completely away from it because I'm like, that's just too darn obvious.
Yeah.
The more I was thinking about them flipping and playing the different roles, I thought, no, that makes sense.
It
So I
does
have
make
to bring them up
sense.
as those two being our lead characters, our Hamilton and our Burr.
Well, it is, I guess, very good to have, for traditional sake, with Disney characters, those two playing the lead roles. And I think the way you've explained it, I'm on board with that. It hurts to think of Mickey Mouse as Aaron Burr because he is the villain in this
But
story.
he is. I mean, he is, yes, because when it's all said and done, he's the one that ends up, yes, killing Alexander Hamilton, right? So that's tough to think of Mickey Mouse doing something like that.
Right.
He's just shot Donald Duck. But could you see them having a duel? Could you see Mickey and Donald having a duel? Maybe with something that doesn't end up being lethal.
Right.
Sure. But as far as actually their personalities, and again, Burr. I relate to Burr for so many reasons throughout this, except for the fact that he just goes too far. But I get the waiting for it. I probably do that more than I should. I should be more Hamilton at times, and I'm more Burr at times. I get it. But as I mentioned, both do sort of sketchy things. Both are both heroes and villains. I mean, Aaron Burr was a hero also of the Revolutionary War.
Right.
Just as Alexander Hamilton was. They were both heroes. They both do good things. They both do smart things. Just the way it plays out is that because of the one shot,
Right.
that is what ends up happening. That Burr ends up being the complete villain,
Right.
and Hamilton the hero. Whereas something different could have happened there, and you could tell totally.
Sure.
It could have been told a different way.
Right.
The thing about Hamilton is that's what makes it fascinating, especially the interplay between those two characters. And I'm sure we're going to go over a lot of this coming up here when we get to our Hamilton extravaganza later this month. But the fact that both those characters have both sides of their personality, they are complete people, they're complete characters, and it plays out throughout both of their stories.
Right.
And that, if you were just to change a couple scenes, that show could be Burr and not Hamilton,
right?
Because Burr is so important to that. That's what makes it interesting. And I think that's kind of why these characters fit into those roles as well.
No, definitely. And like I said, I think it's cool that you put, the kind of like the top two classic characters in the lead.
I went way more classic than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
I hit only a few more modern characters out there. I think about the characters, the movies I went with. Robin Hood, I went with Peter Pan, all the many of the Sensational Six plus Clarabelle, there was very few outside of Eugene Fitzherbert and Mufasa that I really named that were more modern characters, which was completely surprised me. That's not how I thought it was going to go.
No, it's good. I'm glad one of us did that, and I like it.
Yeah. Did you have anything else that you wanted to put into play? Any other characters?
I just had a couple other side characters. I had Mulligan,
Hercules
Mulligan. And it's funny that because I didn't associate the names, but I thought Phil from Hercules because Phil's trying to help, Hercules get into shape, and he's loyal to him. He's wanting to support a cause, not himself, so I saw that. And for John Lawrence, looking at him as kind of a quiet leader, Harrison Dula, I thought kind of matched that personality.
Very cool. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm just on the fly here, just kind of thinking about those characters. I didn't really put any serious thought into it because I didn't know if we would go there or not. I think for Hercules Mulligan, maybe Mr. Incredible, from my point of view, could fit into that role. He can be a little bit stealthy, even though he's a big man, as we see Hercules Mulligan often as a big man on the stage. But also is out there and ready to fight and do the right thing. I could see him kind of playing that role there. John Lawrence, that's a really interesting one. Maybe I can go with Mulan as John Lawrence because I think John Lawrence is actually willing to whip up the crowds, whip up the people to part of the revolution. I feel like Mulan would do that as she tries to get everybody involved in the battle during it. But also he's a leader. He's leading, battalions out there. I could definitely see Mulan playing John Lawrence as well.
Yeah. Cool. Anyways, I think that's pretty good rundown of the main characters
Yeah.
in Hamilton.
And we'd love to know your list. Who would you
Absolutely.
put in these character roles? I think this could be interesting. I think this could be broken down by Disney characters. I think you can mix it up like Michelle did. I think you could do Muppets. I really want to see Muppets Hamilton.
Yeah.
Please, Disney, do Muppets Hamilton. It would be amazing. Like
That would be.
you could totally do a Hamilton cast with the Muppets,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that'd be so fun. I think you can do Marvel characters. You can do live action Disney. There are so many ways to approach this. I just ended up just going straight animation outside of when I mentioned Jack the Lamplighter, but just
Right.
because something about him. I don't
He
know what
looks
it is.
like him.
Is it? Does
yeah.
he look like
yeah,
him?
he looks a lot like the guy who plays Hamilton on
Guess so.
Broadway.
I guess so.
Or
Maybe
who was
so.
the original Hamilton
Maybe
on
so.
Broadway.
Something about him anyway. But outside of that, I went on completely animated, but I could totally see, like Michelle did, mixing it up or focusing on one brand, just going Pixar. You could do just Pixar,
Right.
classic Disney, Renaissance Disney, anything. It'd be
Yeah,
great.
I know. Like I did all films, but there are a lot of other,
Yeah.
you
Do
know, like
Disney Channel.
right?
Yeah.
Disney Channel, shorts, and things like that. Yeah.
So many ways to approach this. Anyway, would love to hear your list. Please hit us up, the Gmail account, Hyperion Adventures Podcast at gmail.com with your list. Hit us up on social media. We'd love to know who you
Yeah.
think. And it could be a single role or it could be all these roles we talked about or something that we even left off because there are many more roles
Right.
that get played within this. Some of them are dual roles. You know, Hercules Mulligan, also James Madison. So,
Right.
yeah. Definitely love to know who you have in these spots. And that is our Hamilton recast with Disney characters.
Ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep, America forgot him. We fought with him. Me, I died for him. Me, I trusted him.
Me, I loved him.
And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him.
There's a million things I haven't done, but just to pay.
What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton.
Well, that was so fun. I really liked going through and kind of doing a recast of Hamilton. We may do this again because we have, as we mentioned, the ability to do this with so many different avenues we could approach, so many different things involved with Disney that we could look at this and say, let's go ahead and recast Hamilton with just Pixar characters or just live
Yeah,
action
so
characters.
many themes to choose
Yes, there would be so many ways we could go through this, but this was fun. And again, we would still love your lists as well. Please send them to us at our Gmail account, Hyperion Adventures Podcast at gmail.com or through the social media.
from. Yeah, but I have to say, honey, I think you win the most exciting list.
No,
this
I
time.
disagree. Yours is definitely the most exciting list. Mine is
Yeah, you're the best.
the most classic list, I think. more than
I like
anything
it
else.
though. That's really cool.
So luckily for us, or luckily for me, Michelle already did our hashtag Year of Lynn. And by the way, Lynn, we are going to be reaching out to you in many different ways this week. I still am hoping, Instagram's not treating us well because normally we could post that video we did on YouTube to Instagram, but there's been some sort of miscommunication between our streaming service that we use and Instagram that's been going on off and on for a while. And I can't do it right now, but still going to put it out there. It is on the YouTube channel. It is, you can find it there. Check out our little look back at the year of Lynn that we did during our anniversary episode. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, we are going to be reaching out to you because we still, as we're recording this on the 6th, the 7th, July 7th, will be exactly 1 year since we announced the Year of Lynn.
Nice.
So I'm not saying we're going to stop this week. We're going to continue on at least till our Hamilton extravaganza later this month, as promised. But we would love, Lynn, for you to at least acknowledge this show, if not come on for a full-on interview, of course.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And any of those things would make our Hamilton extravaganza really, really even that much more special.
For sure.
It'll be special anyway, but even more so. All right. We also need to do this before we get to our Disney stories of the week. We need to talk about this great guy. Of course, we're talking about our great friend Nate with Main Street and More Travel, because let's face it, we all have trips we're thinking about taking in the very near future. Well, if you do, whether it be to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise, or anywhere in the world beyond, let me tell you, Nate is the certified Disney vacation planner that you are going to want to get in contact with.
Oh my gosh, for sure. As we, mention all the time, he really has firsthand knowledge of things, so he can really help you plan, customize a trip that is going to be the best for you, answer your questions. It's really concierge level planning that doesn't cost you anything.
High end. It is high end stuff that he will help you out with, answer all your questions. He is there for you to make sure your trip, wherever it may be the best it possibly can be. And as Michelle mentioned, no extra cost to you. That's because either Disney or whatever other travel branch that he works through pays him for you. What you end up paying is exactly what you pay if you did all that work yourself. Only you can save that time and just relax and enjoy and let him set it all up for you.
Right. And you know what? He may even be able to save you some money from you doing it alone, because he is on top of all the deals and steals that are out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's never a guarantee, but let me tell you, if there's a discount out there, Nate will find it for you. So what you got to do is go to distripsandmore.com, fill out the form there, and just contact him, talk to him, tell him what you want to do, and let him get to work for you.
Right. So as Tom mentioned, once you fill out that form, Nate will be back in touch with you to start that planning, but be sure to tell him that Tom and Michelle sent you.
Yeah. Again, that's Nate with Main Street and More Travel. All right, let's go ahead and get to those Disney stories of the week. Just a few for you this week. I'm going to start with, we now know when you'll get your chance to get a little early preview of Test Track 3.0, right, Michelle?
It's very exciting.
Yeah, these came from a pair of emails we received this week, lucky us. The first one said, discover the future of transportation on the thrilling Road to Tomorrow when Test Track, presented by General Motors, reopens. Pass holders will have an opportunity to be among the very first to experience it before it officially opens on July 22nd. Just a little thank you as part of our VI Pass Holder Summer Days. Pass holder previews will take place on these days, so mark your calendars if you haven't already, and hopefully you did. But the previews will take place on July 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 18th, and 19th. So if you're thinking about trying to do this on those days, you will need to get one. Of course, you're an annual pass holder, so I would assume you'll have admission to the parks. You will also need to make sure you have a reservation for those days, and I know that some of them were going pretty quickly, so you want to check into that. Also,
a reservation for Epcot, right?
Right, reservation for Epcot. Although you do not need a park reservation to try for the secondary try. Right. Okay, so as I was, I'm jumping a little bit forward here, but if you have a park reservation for those days, we're doing virtual queues again to try and get these pass holder previews. You will need to have a valid annual pass. You will need to have an Epcot reservation. Then at 7 a.m., you need to have the fastest finger and be on there to do that virtual queue to try and get your spot. However, if you should miss out, or if you do not have a park reservation, you will have a second opportunity to do so at 1 p.m. that day to try and get in for any of those preview days that I just mentioned.
Right. And just to clarify, the virtual passes are only during this preview time. This is not what's going to be the way to get into Test Track once it reopens.
Right. So when it actually officially opens on July 22nd, it will not be a virtual queue. It'll be standby, easy for me to say, standby. It'll be Lightning Lane multi-pass, or it will be, it's still standby, but they will have a single rider queue as well that you can go through. So those are your ways to do it, but it will not be virtual queue. At least at this point right now, they're not listing it as virtual queue for that. Now, if you're a Disney Vacation Club member, you even have an earlier chance to possibly go and experience a preview of Test Track 3.0, because they are going to be inviting their members who have a resort stay and an Epcot reservation for that day for their preview on Saturday, July 12th, 2025. Now, know this going in. Hopefully you're listening to this on the 6th if you didn't know about this already, because you need to have that park reservation, that resort reservation done by 11:59 p.m. on today as we're recording this, July 6th. So get on that. But if you have, you're going to be receiving your link later this week. The registration will begin on July 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. They say they'll be sending you a link through the email so you can join that registration process. That's what we're trying to do. We already had, not even knowing this was going to happen,
Right.
we already had a resort reservation for the night of the 12th. So we will either hopefully get that on the 12th. That's what we're hoping for, because then we don't have to stress out with the fastest finger with a virtual queue. But if that doesn't come through, then we have the second opportunity, because we will also be there on the 13th, and we do have park reservations for Epcot for both those days, just in case.
Just in case. Yes.
So anyway, coming up very soon. And then again, if you can't make those, yes, it reopens on July 22nd. And those ways we just discussed you'll be your opportunities to check out what everybody is saying is a really nice reimagining of Test Track so far. I've been avoiding the spoilers, but they say it's a really nice reimagining.
Yeah. I've looked at a couple things and it looks pretty nice. Yeah. Looking
Very
forward
excited
to it.
for it. And 'cause I'll be honest with you, Test Track was something that usually with the weight that was involved with it, it was something that we skipped most of the time because yes, we liked it enough. It's not like we didn't like it, but it just, compared to what the weight was and everything else we would like to do at Epcot, it just didn't balance out. I'm excited to experience a new, rejuvenated, reimagined Test Track and see if that bumps it up the list as to be something that we is more of a regular do when we visit Epcot,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah.
Sticking with Epcot, well, another Epcot festival is quickly approaching, and we learned what bands will be rocking the stage while you enjoy some of those international culinary delights. That's right. This came from the Disney Parks blog. They said, welcome back to the Epcot Eat to the Beat concert series presented by Florida Blue, returning in 2025. One of the headlining events of the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival, of course. The Eat to the Beat series is returning with help from the team at Disney Live Entertainment, who have cooked up a lineup full of flavor and fun for young kids, Gen Z, and music lovers of all ages. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but some of your favorites are returning and some new acts returning this year. Kicking it off right on August 29th and 30th, Joey Fatone and Friends, always great, for sure. Also, Starships coming back in September, featuring Mickey Thomas, of course. Sheila E.'s coming back. Tiffany, for you 80s fans, coming back. Baha Men coming. The Fray, Hanson. So many of you love Hanson. Smash Mouth, Boys to Men, all coming back. New this year, among them, Katie Tunstall is coming. Jordan Sparks. Bowling for Soup is one that when I saw, I paused for a second. I'm like, can we do this one? Because Bowling for Soup speaks to, one, the lover of the 80s in us with their song 1985, and the lovers of Phineas and Ferb with us because they did the theme song to Phineas and Ferb. That's one that I'm like, whoa, we need to think about if we can go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
Also fun and hard to believe this is the first time they've ever been to the Eat to the Beat concert series, but the Beach Boys are coming here, wrapping it up November 16th and 17th. The Beach Boys, I've seen the Beach Boys in concert several times. Maybe it's been 20 plus years since I've seen them, but I have seen them, and they always put on a fun, amazing show full of all their hits that you know that you love that will get you up and dancing for sure.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of surprising they haven't been there before, but it's very enjoyable to see all the bands that are listed. And I know they haven't listed every single one. I know they're still working on a few dates and stuff, but it's already on the Disney World website that you can take a look at that.
Yeah, and on the Disney Parks blog as
Right.
well. There is, I only see one TBD right now, to be determined date, but I'll be interested to find out who that might be. And of course, there could be dropping some other things, but those are the main, and again, the entire list. There's something for everybody, as they said there. Definitely something you would enjoy. So those bands obviously are all on tour. And one of our favorite Disney princesses, Tiana, is soon going to be going on tour as well. This also from the Disney Parks blog. They said, we're queuing up the Zydeco tunes because Princess Tiana's celebration will continue beyond the parks. Yes, that's right. Walt Disney Imagineering is excited to announce Tiana's Joyful Celebration. In collaboration with the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, Tiana's Joyful Celebration is a traveling exhibition that extends Princess Tiana's story to a fully immersive museum experience. Beginning March 7th, 2026, The exhibition will first launch at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, and then starting in 2027, travel to 12 additional cities near you during a nationwide tour.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, sounds fun. So here's how they describe this amazing experience that they're going to have. They say that, obviously Tiana's Bio Adventure attraction launched just this last year at Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort. In the spirit of the attraction, the exhibition will take visitors on a journey where they discover a series of fun, interactive, multi-sensory experiences inspired by the music, food, and people of New Orleans. In this magical adventure, Princess Tiana is celebrating her community by throwing a parade. Tiana's friends, critters included, have been working hard in Tiana's childhood neighborhood to prepare for the big day. But when the day arrives, they learn that their time slot begins earlier than anticipated, and they need the entire community and critter friends to put the finishing touches on the floats to make it in time. Guests will receive a call for assistance, learning Tiana needs help with decor, music, food, costumes, and more. Everyone must come together and contribute their unique talents, a bit of their special spice, to pull the parade together on time. From music and crafts to cooking and community spirit, you'll be immersed in this diverse and vibrant world of New Orleans Mardi Gras celebrations as you help Princess Tiana.
That is so cool sounding.
I love it.
I know. It really
It
sounds
like
amazing.
so fun. Children's Museum, so it's in for the entire family. By the way, the Children's Museum of Indianapolis is turning 100 this year.
Wow.
This doesn't debut till 2026, but this year they turned 100. But that'll be fun. And then, like I said, it's going to 12 other cities. No official announcement on the dates or what cities those will be yet, but you can stay tuned for those. This, by the way, is a shared vision of Walt Disney Imagineering, the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, and it aims to celebrate culture and embrace creativity through uniting the storytelling of one of the Disney's most beloved princesses and educational excellence to create an unforgettable family experience, is what they say. And it sounds like an unforgettable family experience for sure.
I know that when they do have these touring experiences, we have not yet had that opportunity to catch any of them, but we have spoken to people who have, and they all just rave how wonderful it is of an experience. And this sounds like it's going to be, like you said, so fun for the whole family.
Yeah, I think usually, unfortunately, they don't come to the cities that are closest to us because we tend to be close to Disney parks. And they're like, well, you already have Disney parks.
Right.
We want to share these experiences with communities that are maybe a little bit farther away from Disney. So that's one reason why we haven't had our opportunity to visit them yet. I'm hoping that even if it doesn't come to Orlando or California or wherever it might be, that it comes at least somewhat close to us within driving or a short trip distance, because I would love to see this or some of these other experiences that have been around for so far.
Exactly.
Yeah. So either way, excited for this. This sounds fun. This sounds exciting. And again, it's one of our favorite Disney princesses, and I love the concept behind it. So that will be cool. Can't wait to find out much more about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah, so that's it for the Disney Stories of the Week. However, we never leave you without giving you some sort of tip that might help you on your next vacation. And when we do this, we always start with Michelle, of course, because she's fantastic. You know this. She's amazing. You know that. She's wonderful. You know that. You also know she does the best research. No matter what she says, she has the best list. You heard it just a little bit ago. Yeah. She also always has the very best tips. So let's get to it. Here's Michelle's tip of the week.
Oh, you're so sweet, honey. Thank you. So my tip has to do with the DAS, or Disability Access Service, that you can utilize if you or somebody in your party meets the qualifications at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland. And as I'm getting ready to get Scott's DAS back into effect, I thought, I better check on to see if there's any changes, or do I remember it the way I thought I did, and I haven't noticed really any changes, but I did want to point out for our international listeners how you can also apply for DAS if you're coming out to visit at Walt Disney World. Now, you don't do it the same way. You don't do it through an online chat. You actually go to guest relations for this when you get to Orlando. And so you can go to any of the guest relations locations at the parks, at Disney Springs, and get that worked out for you. If that's, again, if you or somebody in your party meet the DOS services, and they have so many. I'm not going to go into all the details, but they will be able to walk you through that at Guest Relations. And one other perk at Guest Relations is they can also assist you with currency exchange. So
that's something important a lot of times, going in or out of the country,
right?
For sure. So,
but if you do feel that you would need or benefit from those services, then go ahead and check in with Guest Relations for your assistance in how to apply for that.
Very good. Michelle's tip, always the very best tip. My tip this week, no surprise, it's something I've talked about before, but I'm going to talk about it again because whenever we get these concert series, whenever we get these festival events, whether it be, the Broadway, the Disney on Broadway, the Eat to the Beat, the Candlelight Processional, or Garden Rocks, any of those, yes, you can do standby. Absolutely. You can get in there if you really want to hang out and do it. You can do standby. But if there's a band or artist or a narrator that you really, really want to see and you want to get the best seat possible, then I highly recommend you looking into the dining packages when they become available because one, you're going to eat anyways while you're at the parks. And they have options for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. You can do any of those depending on, yes, of course, you're going to want to try some of your food and wine favorites. But maybe you have breakfast and then you save a little room for later. Or maybe you have dinner and you go a little earlier and enjoy some of those. Or maybe you're here for multiple days and you're going to be visiting Epcot a couple times. So one day you can eat other foods and one day you can eat festival foods. Whatever. Highly recommend you look into that. The prices are not that much more than if you were to go and dine at some of these places anyways. If you like alcoholic beverages, usually an alcoholic beverage is included in the package. Definitely look into booking them. You will get the best seats if you do that. You won't have to wait nearly as long to get in, and you can just relax throughout the day and not sit there and stress out like, should we get in line? Should we get in line? Just enjoy your day at Epcot for sure. And so that's why I recommend doing it. It's not for everybody, but it often is right for us. And I think it might be right for you, or at least something to think about for sure.
Very good point, baby.
So that's it for our tips. And that's it for this week's show. But next week, we're going to have another really fun episode because you may know this, Disneyland's anniversary celebration is already underway, of course. However, the official birthday for Walt's original park is coming in just over a week, less than that by the time that episode airs. And so we're going to keep the party going, or really get it going for sure, by discussing why even after 70 years, Disneyland is still the happiest place on earth, right, Michelle?
Yeah, excited to be doing this episode for sure.
Yes. For those of you who've never been to Disneyland, you're missing out, and we're going to tell you why you're going to want to get there. For those of you who know Disneyland very well, we're just going to be shining a light on it that much more and talking about how much we love Disneyland. We've talked to some people recently that have went for the very first time, and they're like, you know what? I get it now. I get why Disneyland is fantastic. We're going to be talking all about it, and it should be a fun episode this next week.
Yeah, it's still very amazing that was, one of the original, that was Walt's original, but a park that was designed 70 years ago. Yes, there's been some changes to it, but it still is a wonderful place.
And still many things that were there 70 years ago for you to enjoy. As I always like to say, the best thing about that park is you're going exactly where Walt went. You're stepping where Walt stepped. You're riding on some of the attractions that Walt rode on or experienced himself. If you're a Walt Disney fan, if you're a Disney fan, it's Mecca. You got to go.
That's right.
You got to go.
That's
for
right.
Sure. So, and that's next week, and we're very, very excited about that. As for this week's show, we appreciate that you join us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. Also, we're on social media. We're on #always Twitter at Hyperion Podcast and Blue Sky at Hyperion Podcast. Blue Sky is also, it's a really long name. It's at Hyperion Podcast. Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. If you are on Facebook, come on over and join us for some good, positive Disney energy fun on our Hyperion Adventurers Facebook group. Also, we're on YouTube and we're doing stuff all the time on YouTube. Live shows most every morning. Other things dropping. That Year of Lynn highlights package, that is on YouTube. Find us there at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. By the way, going back to our 7th anniversary episode, you remember Lori and George wanted me to discuss the actual villain of Frozen. That may be coming as a video sometime in the near future. That may be, yes, part of an episode, but that may be actual video because I think it needs some reinforcement.
All right.
So I'm kind of contemplating that. It's coming, Lori and George. And for all the rest of you that have wondered when I bring this up, it's coming. But it may be also a big part of a video on YouTube. So more reason why you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. You'll know whenever we have a new video, including that. And of course, if you ever want to contact us for any reason, please hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
And just a reminder that if you are not yet a Patreon and you might want to consider that, again, we would be completely grateful for that support. But as our appreciation, you can also get into our fantastic drawing.
Yes. And the first of many to come.
Yes.
The first of many to come. So yes, you'll definitely want to be a part of that. And thanks again to everybody who has been a Patreon member, whether you were at some point, whether you still are, no matter what. Thank you for your support of the show. We appreciate you so very much. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. Until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.
Bye.